You know, usually when we talk about a compelling romantic narrative, there's this underlying expectation of a collision.
Right, like a literal or metaphorical crash.
Exactly. We're so accustomed to the classic setup where, two characters bump into each other in a crowded hallway, hot coffee spills everywhere, snappy dialogue is exchanged, and boom, the fireworks begin.
Yeah, it's loud, it's sudden, and, well, the romantic spark is immediately glaringly visible to the audience.
And we crave that, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we call that the classic meet cute,
Eh.
and it's designed to be highly kinetic.
Right.
As readers and consumers of media, we've been trained to crave stories that offer immediate, undeniable friction. We want the connection to be visible and, categorized within the first 5 pages.
Because it scratches that psychological itch for instant narrative gratification.
Yes, exactly.
But then you step into the world of a story like The Silent Bloom of a Sunflower Heart, and suddenly that whole kinetic formula is just, well, it's completely abandoned.
It really is.
We're looking at a narrative landscape that actively rejects the loud and the flashy. So today, on the deep dive, our mission is to unpack an excerpt from this beautiful narrative. We want to decode exactly how the author manages to build a profound, gripping romance without relying on a single explosion.
Which is no small feat.
Right. We're going to look under the hood of the writing to see how a connection is built purely on quiet moments, because it requires a complete recalibration of how you, as a listener and a reader, identify the beginning of a meaningful relationship.
Definitely. I mean, when an author strips away the witty banter and the dramatic physical collisions, they have to rely on entirely different mechanisms to hold your attention.
So let's look at how the author sets that baseline. We were introduced to our protagonist, a 16-year-old named Emily Carter.
Right.
She lives in a quiet English town, and the text spends a surprising amount of time just describing her daily routine.
Yeah, we get these long, really rhythmic sentences about her walking to school.
Walking past brick houses, noticing the flower-filled gardens, feeling the chill of the morning air. I mean, Emily genuinely loves the predictable, gentle pace of her ordinary days.
And that descriptive pacing is a deliberate structural choice. By spending paragraphs on her mundane walk to school, the author is basically slowing the reader's pulse.
Oh, that's a great way to put it, slowing the pulse.
Right, and furthermore, it establishes a crucial psychological baseline for Emily herself. She is not a character defined by a lack.
Right, she isn't staring out a window, desperately waiting for a chaotic savior to disrupt her boring life.
Exactly. She's starting from a place of quiet contentment.
Which is so rare in young adult fiction. But of course, the predictability does eventually shift. The inciting incident happens on a rainy Monday in September with the arrival of a new student in her class, Oliver Bennett.
The mysterious new kid.
Right, but okay, let's unpack this. Because when Oliver arrives, the author actively strips away every single mysterious new kid trope we've come to expect.
Yeah, he really does.
I mean, he doesn't ride in on a motorcycle, he doesn't have a brooding monologue, and he doesn't instantly challenge the teacher.
No, the text explicitly notes his absence of action. During his entire first week, he barely speaks.
Barely a word.
While everyone else in the cafeteria is spending lunch chatting, laughing, and, frantically establishing the social hierarchy for the new school year, Oliver is just sitting by the library window reading a book.
Just totally disconnected from the drama.
Right. By withholding his dialogue and his interaction with the main cast, the author creates a sort of vacuum of attention around him.
And because of that vacuum, when he finally does do something, it echoes much louder.
Exactly.
The initial spark for Emily, the moment Oliver actually registers on her radar, it isn't a grand romantic gesture directed at her. It's simply her observing him in a crowded hallway.
The stairwell scene.
Yes. She sees an elderly teacher struggling to carry a heavy pile of grading papers down a staircase. The papers slip, cascading everywhere, and before any of the other chatting students even process what happened, Oliver is already rushing over to kneel down and help gather them.
And the author gives us a very specific line of internal monologue from Emily here. She thinks it wasn't a grand gesture. It was something much more powerful. It was kindness.
Ah.
Yeah. This is the foundational hook of the entire narrative. The author is centering character over charisma.
I want to pause on that scene for a second because the architecture of it is just brilliant. Oliver isn't helping the teacher to impress Emily.
No, not at all.
He has his back to her. He doesn't even know she exists in that moment.
Uh-uh.
And it feels like modern media constantly tells you that a valid connection needs a boombox outside the window moment.
Right, a grand public declaration.
Exactly. But this text acts almost like a documentary of real life. It asks you to look at the quiet gravity of just being a decent person when no one is asking you to be.
And that unperformative nature is exactly what pulls Emily's focus. The author is showing us that trust is built in the moments when people think they aren't being watched.
Oh, I love that.
Because of this, when Emily and Oliver finally have their true meeting a few days later, the foundation of trust is already there.
And the author creates a direct parallel to the stairwell scene for this meeting. Emily accidentally drops her own notebook in the corridor, and the pages scatter everywhere.
Right, the roles are reversed.
Yeah, and it's Oliver who kneels beside her to help. But again, the author refuses to give us a sweeping romantic line. Oliver just diffuses her embarrassment by handing her a piece of paper and joking, "Looks like your notes tried to escape."
It's just a gentle, grounded piece of dialogue. He doesn't compliment her eyes or, use a cheesy pickup line.
No.
He just offers a momentary relief from her vulnerability. And from that one scattered notebook, a conversation begins.
And soon, they're talking almost every day by that library window. But this is where the author throws a fascinating wrench into the gear.
Oh, yes, the contrasts.
Yeah, as the text moves into the next phase of their dynamic, it reveals that Emily and Oliver actually have absolutely nothing in common.
The architecture of their developing relationship is built entirely on stark contrasts.
Let's look at the specific contrasts the text provides, because they're very distinct. We are told Emily loves art, whereas Oliver loves astronomy.
Right.
Emily is energized by bright mornings, but Oliver prefers the quiet of star-filled nights. Emily's favorite thing is the sunflower, rooted in the earth. Oliver's favorite thing is looking through his telescope, aimed at the infinite sky.
It's very poetic.
It is, but I have to push back on the author's premise here.
Oh, how so?
Well, usually when a writer introduces characters who are polar opposites, it's just a lazy shortcut for plot momentum. They bicker over what radio station to play, they misunderstand each other's motives, and that fiery friction is what drives the story forward.
That's true. It's a very common trope.
Yeah, so I initially thought the author was just trying to isolate them from the rest of the school by making them quirky outsiders who don't fit together and therefore have to fight it out.
It's a fair assumption, given how often that trope is used.
Mm.
But the author's mechanism is much more subtle here. What's fascinating here is that the author uses these differing traits not as friction, but as complementary spheres.
Wait, what do you mean by complementary spheres?
Well, if you look closely at the imagery, art versus astronomy, morning versus night, earthbound flowers versus distant stars, they aren't competing forces.
Oh, I see.
They are two halves of a complete world. Because they do not occupy the same domain, they cannot step on each other's toes. The author explicitly writes that their differences made things more interesting.
Right, because they're constantly expanding each other's horizons rather than fighting for dominance in the same space.
Exactly. So instead of the typical narrative conflict, the author replaces that tension with a structure of mutual support.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
The text demonstrates this symmetry through their actions, too. Whenever Emily feels overwhelmed with anxiety before her art exams, Oliver is the one who grounds her and encourages her.
And conversely, whenever Oliver doubts his own intellect while working through those complex astronomy equations, Emily is the one who reminds him of his capabilities.
Right, they fill in the emotional gaps for one another.
The text actually has a beautiful line to describe this dynamic. It calls their bond a story writing itself one page at a time.
Which implies an utter lack of force. Neither of them is trying to manipulate the plot of their relationship.
They're just allowing the pages to turn at a natural pace.
Exactly. It's an accumulation of trust.
But if neither of them is forcing the plot, how do we get any narrative momentum?
That is the big question.
Right, and the author answers this by shifting the weight of the story onto a physical object. We reach a Friday afternoon, the bell has just rung, and Oliver hands Emily a small, plain brown envelope.
And he tells her to open it when she gets home.
Yes. The shift from the public space of the school corridor to her private space at home is such a vital transition.
It really transforms the opening of the envelope into a solitary, highly intimate experience. She isn't reacting for an audience.
Exactly. And when she opens this plain brown envelope, she doesn't find jewelry or some lavish gift. She finds a packet of sunflower seeds.
Just seeds.
Just seeds. And attached is a short handwritten note that reads, "Sunflowers always face the light. They reminded me of someone."
Such a great line.
So good. The text notes that she sits on her bed and reads those two sentences 3, 4, 5 times, and her smile grows wider with each read. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Giving someone seeds is the exact opposite of giving them a bouquet.
Oh, that's a fantastic point. Let's unpack the psychology behind that distinction.
Think about it. If I hand you a bouquet of flowers, I am giving you a finished product. It's instantly beautiful, visually stunning, and ready to be displayed. But fundamentally, a bouquet is already dying the second it's cut. It requires absolutely nothing from you except maybe finding a vase and adding some water.
Yeah, it's very passive.
Exactly. But seeds, a seed requires patience. Giving Emily seeds requires her to take action. She has to put them in the dirt, she has to water them every single day after school, and she has to wait through an entire winter before she sees any proof that they are even alive.
That is a brilliant mechanical breakdown of the author's intent.
It perfectly mirrors the steady, unglamorous work of building a real friendship.
It does. A bouquet is consumptive, right? But a seed is generative. If we connect this to the bigger picture of the narrative structure, the author is using the physical passing of the seasons to dictate the emotional maturation of the characters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oliver doesn't hand her a fully grown sunflower. He hands her the raw potential of one. By accepting that gift and planting it, Emily is quietly accepting the responsibility of time.
And she does plant them. She plants them in her garden the very next morning. And the text emphasizes the mundane routine of this. It says, every day after school, she watered them. Every day, she watched them grow.
It frames her daily watering almost like an act of faith.
It really does.
And then the author forces the reader to experience the psychological weight of waiting. The text explicitly states, winter passed, spring arrived. The story intentionally makes Emily endure the dormant period.
But I mean, why not just have them sprout immediately? It's fiction. The author could have made them, I don't know, magical fast-growing seeds if they wanted to speed up the romance.
They could have, but because that would undermine the entire thesis of the book. Winter represents the period in any relationship where nothing appears to be happening on the surface. The ground is freezing, the skies are gray, and the seeds are just buried in the dark.
Doing invisible work.
Exactly. If the seed magically sprouted the next day, it would be just another flashy, instant gratification trope. By tying the growth of the flower to natural law, the author is stating that true connection has to survive the cold before it has the strength to bloom.
Which makes the payoff so incredibly sweet, because finally, on one warm afternoon, the first sunflower blooms. The text describes it standing tall and incredibly bright beneath the blue sky.
And her reaction is so telling.
Yes. Emily's very first thought upon seeing it isn't about her gardening skills. Her immediate thought is of Oliver. The seed has fulfilled its promise. And the blooming of this flower ushers in the climax of the story.
A climax that the author carefully orchestrates to bring the thematic journey completely full circle, contrasting the loud world against their quiet dynamic.
And the setting for this climax is the school's annual spring festival, which takes place just a week after the sunflower blooms.
Right.
And the author paints a wildly vivid, overwhelming sensory picture of this event. We are told the school grounds are filled with the sounds of laughter and overlapping music.
It's very chaotic.
Very. There are crowded stalls lining the pathways, colorful bunting fluttering aggressively in the breeze. It's kinetic, it's loud, and it's chaotic.
It is the exact type of environment where a traditional movie romance would stage its grand finale. You can easily imagine a scenario where, a character grabs a microphone on the main stage, stops the music, and publicly declares their feelings in front of the entire student body.
Oh, totally. We've seen that movie 100 times.
Right.
But the author has spent the entire book proving that isn't who Emily and Oliver are. So Emily actively rejects the noise. She slips away from the crowd, leaving the blaring music behind, and wanders alone toward the school garden.
Seeking out the quiet.
Exactly. And to her surprise, Oliver is already there, standing by the flower beds. And the visual landscape the author paints here is just stunning. The text says the golden sunlight of the late afternoon painted everything in shades of amber, making the quiet garden seem almost magical.
The use of the word amber is a masterful piece of atmospheric storytelling.
Really? Why amber specifically?
Well, amber is fossilized tree resin, right? It represents the perfect preservation of a single, beautiful moment in time.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that.
The author is deliberately muting the surrounding world to create a sacred space. Listen to how the text emphasizes this isolation. For a second, the entire world felt silent. No music, no crowd,
No music, no crowd, just the two of them standing beneath the evening sky. It is unbelievably intimate.
It really is.
And in this isolated, silent space, Oliver finally gives voice to the metaphor of the seeds he gave her months ago. He looks at the flowers, then turns to look at her, and quietly says, I gave you those seeds because they reminded me of you.
Emily's heart skips a beat.
Right? And she simply asks him why.
And his answer is the culmination of everything the narrative has been building toward. He doesn't compliment her appearance or, say something smoothly flirtatious.
Right.
He answers, because no matter how difficult things get, you always seem to find something good. You make people feel brighter just by being around them.
He is validating her core identity.
Exactly. He is confirming that he truly sees the person she is when the world isn't looking. The kindness she observed in him on the stairwell is the same light he observes in her.
That is so beautiful. Emily smiles at this, and the author makes a point to describe it as a real smile, the kind that comes from happiness too deep for words. In that amber light, they both suddenly understand what they haven't been brave enough to say out loud over the long winter. So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
That's the real question.
When you look at the architecture of Emily and Oliver's relationship, it asks a direct, challenging question about how you operate in your own life. Are you constantly scanning the horizon for a fireworks moment in your friendships and romances?
Waiting for the big explosion.
Exactly. Are you waiting for the booming soundtrack and the dramatic rainfall to validate your connections? Or are you paying attention to the steady, quiet presences in your life? The people who just make the room feel a little brighter simply by standing in it.
The author provides a definitive thesis in those final quiet moments in the garden. The text argues that love, in its most enduring form, does not need to arrive dramatically. It does not require grand speeches or public spectacle.
Not at all.
It can begin with a simple, almost invisible act of kindness, grow quietly through the mundane routines of daily friendship, and eventually bloom just like a sunflower naturally reaching for the sun when the season is right.
And for Emily and Oliver, that was more than enough. It is the perfect encapsulation of their journey.
It really is.
To wrap up our deep dive today, we've traced this narrative from a seemingly insignificant moment of dropped grading papers on a crowded staircase through a long, dormant winter of watering seeds, all the way to a brilliantly blooming sunflower in a silent, amber-lit garden.
It's quite a journey.
We've seen how the author methodically dismantled the loud, kinetic tropes of typical romance to prove that true connection is really just an accumulation of small, gentle moments. It's the daily watering of the soil, long before you ever see the flower.
And this narrative framework leaves us with a final provocative thought to carry forward.
Let's hear it.
We live in a modern world that is completely obsessed with instant gratification. Our technology and our media have trained us to expect immediate replies to our messages, immediate definitions for our relationships, and immediate resolutions to our conflicts.
We want the bouquet handed to us right now.
Exactly. We want the bouquet.
Yeah.
But this text proves that the sunflower fundamentally requires the dark, cold waiting period of winter. The seed must sit in the unseen dark before it can ever develop the strength to face the light.
Wow.
So perhaps the most courageous thing two people can do in today's fast-paced, demanding world is simply allow a connection to remain in the soil, to trust it enough to let it grow at its own natural, unhurried pace without trying to rip the petals open before their season.
It goes all the way back to the beginning. You don't always need a sudden, jarring collision to know that something profound has started. Sometimes you just need to plant a seed, step back, and trust the quiet work of growing. Keep tending your gardens, and we'll see you next time.